Hello everyone, Rhen here, for a little bit of a different video today. Tomas and Friends is a show that I am very passionate about and enjoy very much. Among many others, one reason I love the classic era of the show is because of how varied it is in tone. Pretty much every genre of story you could think of was used in the first 7 seasons of the show at some point. Underdog stories, sadder stories, funny stories, little slice of life stories, you name it. However, the episodes that stand out the most, to me at least, were the spooky episodes. For a kid's show, Tomas could get pretty dark at times. It wasn't afraid to explore the scarier side and slide into a bit of a darker tone. A lot of these episodes are really good, and definitely are a big part of why Tomas has stuck with me for so long. They're just so damn memorable. Given the type of content I make, I would definitely consider myself a bit of a spooky Tomas episode connoisseur. So, as a fun Halloween video, I thought, why not go and pick out what I think are the 5 best spooky episodes of the show, and then talk about them. Don't get me wrong, I love making trains videos, but I've been wanting to branch out and start making other forms of content for a while. And if there's one thing I enjoy doing, it's discussing media. I thought a video like this would be fun to try, and who knows, if it performs well and enough of you guys want it, maybe I'll do more like this in the future. Before I begin the list, however, I would like to address 3 things. 1. In preparation for this video, I went back and rewatched every single episode of Tomas that could possibly fall under the spooky category. Please do not go down to the comments and start telling me how I must have, missed or forgotten an episode, or... I didn't, trust me. 2. There will be swearing in this video. That is just how I talk. I sometimes use curse words to emphasize my points, and thanks to YouTube's awful COPPA bot, I kinda have to do this regardless. So if you're a parent deciding if this video is something your kid should watch, or if you just, don't like swearing for some reason, I'd suggest turning off the video now. 3. And finally, this list is just my stupid little personal opinion. I am not presenting anything on here as fact, so please do not take what I say here as an attack on your opinion. You are not going to fully agree with this list. There are some choices on here that are definitely considered hot takes. And you know what? That's perfectly alright. All I ask is that you be civil. Please do not go to the comments and post my IP address or something. That wouldn't be cool. Besides, if you start respecting people's opinions, there's a chance you might actually start pulling some hoes. It's a slim chance though, so don't get too excited. Anyway, with all that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy my personal picks for the top 5 best spooky Tomas episodes. Coming in at the number 5 spot, we have Scaredy, or
Percy's Scary Tale.
So, ignoring the stupid official title, I absolutely love this episode. I'm sure a lot of you watching are thinking, dude, what? The Pack episode? Yep, that one. I fucking love the Jack and the Pack spin-off series. If there's one thing that doesn't get enough love from Tomas fans, it is the Pack spin-off. It's got such a fun and unique batch of characters, and the episodes are all memorable and stand out in some way, and that couldn't be more true for Scaredy. The episode is thrilling, fun, and downright horrifying at parts. I feel like the biggest thing I love about this one is its visuals. Don't get me wrong, all the episodes on this list have great visuals and just look fantastic, but this one stands out because we get to see these eerie night shots from the view of a road vehicle. The locations in this episode all feel so secluded and liminal, and that just amplifies the tension. The foggy shots of Max and Monty in the dead of the forest are just top-notch, and I especially love the scene where we see Thomas's lamp slide into frame for the first time. It's very well shot and just beautiful overall. Another thing this episode has going for it is Kelly's story. I'm a sucker for scenes of characters telling ghost stories, and I absolutely respect the hell out of the writing team for their clever use of ambiguity here. Because we don't actually hear the story, only the very beginning and end, your mind is left to wander and fill in the blanks yourself. I love ambiguity. I use it a lot in my stories. Leaving the viewer in the dark puts them in a situation that forces them to come up with their own explanation. And there really is nothing scarier than what your mind can imagine. I also really like the music in this. Max and Monty are total shitheads and are a blast to watch. And Michael Brandon's narration in the Pack spinoff is surprisingly not awful.
The one-eyed truck chased the loader into the deepest, darkest part of the forest.
It really is a shame the series never took off, because personally I loved what we got. Only real criticism I have of this episode is the official title, which is, again, really stupid. Like, come on, Percy isn't even the one who tells the fucking story, it's Kelly. I get that putting Thomas and Percy's names in the title makes it more appealing to little kids, but come on. At least make it make sense. The title doesn't really take anything away from the episode itself, though, and as it stands, this episode definitely deserves a spot on this list. Truly an underrated classic. Well, if you thought the last one was a hot take, this one is gonna melt your mind. At number 4, I have chosen Jack Frost. Hear me out. On the hot take scale, this opinion is like reaching out and touching the sun. A lot of you probably wouldn't even call this one a spooky episode. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's got a bone-chilling score with visuals to match, and the main plot point of this story is a supernatural entity that gives you frostbite. So, it meets all the requirements for me. Now, Season 6 had 2 official spooky episodes, however, in my opinion, this clears both of those. The foggy, snowy night shots are tense as hell and put you on the edge of your seat. And this is of course accompanied by Mike and Junior's spine-tingling score for this episode. Which is just... God, these two were just masters of their craft, let me tell you. The Jack Frost element of the story is also really unique, and I love how the engines talk about him. They don't go into too much detail, but they tell you just enough to put you on edge. And the scenes of Percy getting covered in snow and ice are just so iconic. That icicle nose has appeared on so many toys throughout the years, and it really is a creepy and intriguing look. And these scenes are accompanied by howling wind and brutal snowfall, which make you feel just how cold and alone Percy is. Being alone out in a blizzard is a thought that can put anyone on edge. And I haven't even talked about the scene of James seeing Percy yet. That creepy warping theme that plays mixed with some on-point line delivery. Well, in the UK at least.
Scary Jack Frost, cried James.
Alec Baldwin kinda screwed the pooch with Season 6, huh? His awful narration of this episode for the US is really my only criticism for the episode. I never see anyone bring up Jack Frost when they're discussing spooky Thomas episodes, and that kinda upsets me, because this is genuinely one of my all-time favorites in that category. It's a beautifully shot episode that never fails to give me goosebumps, even when I'm warm and cozy, wrapped up in a blanket watching it. Like Scaredy, this one is for sure an underrated banger. Cannot recommend Jack Frost enough. Well, if my hot takes haven't scared you away yet, here's a more universally agreed upon choice. At number 3, I have Stepney Gets Lost, one of the most iconic and memorable episodes of the entire show. It's the only spooky episode in Thomas's career that doesn't focus on a supernatural entity to make it spooky. Or does it? More on that later. Anyway, this episode relies on the uneasiness of getting lost and ending up in a life or death situation to scare you. And holy shit does it succeed in doing that. I absolutely love the tone shift in this episode. It starts out all happy and fun with subtle hints that things are about to take a turn sprinkled in here and there. And then the tone goes from creepy to straight up horror movie when Stepney realizes he's at the smelter's yard. Ari and Bert pull up, say as little as possible, and then literally try to fucking murder him, and it is just awesome. No other kids show pushed the boundaries of what it could do like Thomas did. That scene of the grabber slowly coming down, oh, it's so perfect. I truly think this is a near perfect episode of Thomas and Friends. The build-up throughout the episode is great. The characters are great. The narration for both English dubs is great. The music is great. The visuals are great. The tone shift is, you guessed it, great. I posted this on Twitter a little while back, and people seem to really like it. So if you haven't seen it, basically my theory is that, well, in Season 5 at least, Ari and Bert are supernatural entities. I mean, think about it. They slide out of the darkness, shunt Stepney to his death, and then slide back into the shadows, never to be seen again. Until season 6, where they get completely butt-fucked, but that's a discussion for another day.
Little red piggy in the middle!
And as pointed out by my friend Marie, they're referred to as the Grim Messengers of Doom in promotional material from this era. So the Grim Reaper analogy is right there. Stepney's choice of character only further adds to this theory, as he escaped scrap once before, so of course they would go after him. They feel like he cheated death, and have come back to finish the job. And they never get reprimanded for their actions because, well, to most, they don't exist. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but Season 5 had all sorts of weird unexplained stuff. This would fit right in. The later seasons pretty much disprove this theory being true, but who's to say this wasn't the intention at the time, Anyway, that's just my silly little theory. You don't have to believe it if you don't want to. Even if it's not true, due to time constraints within the episode, it can just be assumed that Ari and Bert were punished off-screen or something. Which is perfectly fine for me and doesn't drag the episode down at all. And obviously, Stepney living on Sodor isn't ideal. But that had already been established by the time of this episode, so you can't really hold that against Stepney Gets Lost for just using the in-universe lore. Overall, this episode is a brilliant display of the great things that can come from playing with tone and pushing the limits of what a kid's show can be. Tomas was super ahead of its time in many ways, and this episode is a great showcase of that. Stepney Gets Lost is a super fun, super memorable, and super spooky episode that will continue to be loved for generations to come. A dictionary definition classic. At number 2, I've got another fairly controversial episode. For this spot, I've chosen another one of my all-time favorites, Rusty and the Boulder, the single most unrealistic and nonsensical episode of the entire classic series. And I fucking love it for that. Tomas was a very down-to-earth and realistic show. Well, outside of the fact the vehicles were sentient, of course. It felt like something that could happen in real life. The trains operated like actual locomotives do, for the classic series, anyway. And this was a big part of why Tomas appealed to such a large audience. It was a very simple and calm show that was a lot less in-your-face than other kids' shows from the time. Realism was definitely a driving factor in classic Tomas. But sometimes when you confine yourself to the limits of what you can realistically do, things become dull and repetitive. And that, my friends, is where Rusty and the Boulder truly shines. It's an episode that proves that sometimes you can just kinda look the other way a bit and have a little bit of fun. The concept of this story is that a large, perfectly spherical boulder that may or may not be sentient breaks loose and causes all sorts of mayhem and chaos on its destructive rampage. On paper, this concept sounds absolutely ridiculous. However, in execution, it's actually fantastic. The concept is handled seriously. The situation itself may be unrealistic, but the characters still react how somebody would really react if they found themselves in that situation. It takes itself seriously, and treats the massive, several-ton runaway boulder like the serious threat that it is.
Oh no, it's heading straight for me!
On 3 separate occasions, a character is forced to literally run for their life while being chased by the boulder, and each time it feels super tense and thrilling. You can feel the danger the character is in. The scenes of the boulder doing boulderly activities are also super engaging and fun as hell to watch, and of course, how could I not mention the ridiculous, over-the-top explosion that occurs when the boulder's reign of hell finally comes to an end. A super memorable and visually awesome scene that sticks with you for life, and I can personally attest to that. I also love the supernatural elements that have deep ties in this episode. It's hinted that the boulder may be more than just a rock several times throughout the episode. It's suggested that the boulder is pissed off about people interfering with its part of the island. A good message about respecting Mother Nature and sometimes knowing when to just leave well enough alone. We are even shown what looks to be a face on the boulder, but is it really there? Or is it just an illusion? And that's another huge reason why I love this episode. Just how much it leaves ambiguous and up to the viewer's interpretation. Like, was the boulder really alive? Or was it all just a coincidence? In Topham's one line of the episode, which is delivered literally perfectly by Baldwin,
We should have left this part of the island alone.
It's implied Topham knows more than he's letting on about the boulder. But what does he know? We're never told. So, like with Kelly's story I talked about earlier, we're left to draw our own conclusions. Maybe Topham's familiar with the history of the boulder. Maybe he was warned not to touch that part of the island at some point. Maybe he just really didn't know anything and was just as surprised as everyone else. We'll never know, and that just makes the story all the more unsettling. The amount this episode leaves up to your interpretation, mixed with a wonderful score and super fun action sequences, all come together to form the perfect storm of a Thomas episode. Some people have criticized this episode for being too unrealistic, which again, I personally don't have a problem with so long as the story uses it in a meaningful and entertaining way, which this episode does tenfold. I've also seen people complain that Thumper being in this episode ruins it, and like, he's in it for 30 seconds or whatever and does nothing. Oh, but he's a marketing character. Yeah, well, so is every other character on the show, because, newsflash, Thomas was made primarily to sell toys. That's just such a stupid argument to me. But anyway, I really fuck with this episode. I am so glad we got to see a ton of behind-the-scenes content for this episode in the recently released Season 5 rushes. It's so interesting to me, especially seeing all the bloopers. Like, this episode must have been an absolute bitch to film, but the crew pulled it off seamlessly. Rusty and the Boulder is a masterclass in ambiguity, action, and creepiness, and it simply would not be right if I declared this episode anything other than a masterpiece. Simply a wonderful episode. And at number 1, to the surprise of quite literally nobody, is Duncan Gets Spooked. Sometimes something is just the best. Duncan Gets Spooked is hands down the scariest, best looking, best scored, and just all around strongest spooky episode of Thomas, and just one of its best episodes in general. What can I even say about this episode that hasn't already been said? Well, probably not much, but I'm gonna try anyway. If there was ever an episode that really pushed the boundaries of how far a kid's show could go, it's Duncan Gets Spooked. This episode literally has an on-screen death of an engine, and thanks to the recent Season 5 rush tapes, we know that said engine had its crew in its cab with it when it took its horrible fall. That little ghost engine took those motherfuckers with them, which is just, oh, it's so Season 5-esque, and I love it. Speaking of the ghost engine, Rusty's story is bone-chilling and amazing. The foggy night shots of the old iron bridge are some of Thomas's best cinematography ever. And the music. Dear God. I know I've raved about Mike and Jr. a lot in this video, but it's for good reason. Their score for Duncan Gets Spooked is the absolute peak of their work. It is horrifying and chills you right down to the bone. I will guarantee you that anyone who saw this episode as a kid can instantly recognize the theme as being from this episode. It is that impactful and just sticks with you. And when the ghost engine falls off the bridge, your heart just stops. The slow motion shot of him hitting the water with the big splash is so perfect. Just like everything else about this sequence. And like I've said in previous entries, I'm quite the enjoyer of ambiguity, which this episode pulls off perfectly. It's never stated whether Rusty made the story up or not. The viewer has to decide that for themselves. Had Rusty been like, oh yeah, by the way, this story's not true, lol, it would have killed the mysterious vibes surrounding it. But he doesn't, and so it's left up to audience interpretation. And of course, the build-up to and then Duncan's eventual encounter on the bridge is just cinematic genius. There's some subtle foreshadowing as Duncan crosses it in the daytime, and then when he returns at night, well, by that point the tension is built up so much that you're on the edge of your seat. And even though the encounter was staged by his crew, there's still a chance everything isn't as it seems. Those fireflies look way too much like an engine to be a coincidence. Could it be Duncan's mind playing tricks on him? It could be, but it could also be a ghost engine trying to communicate with him. Season 5 is notorious for its use of supernatural elements, so it's not that much of a stretch. Maybe it's Smudger. Kinda looks like him. That'd be cool as hell. Again, it's left up to viewer interpretation. There are many reasons why the later seasons of Thomas are pretty garbage. But the biggest one for me is how it talks down to the audience and kinda treats them like idiots. We literally just had a guide for the hit era writers leaked that confirmed this. Classic Thomas, however, did not do this. They used mature themes and an advanced vocabulary and treated the viewers with dignity and respect. They used mature themes and an advanced vocabulary and treated the viewer with some dignity. And Duncan Gets Spooked is perhaps the best example of this. Nothing is sugar-coated here. Scary things happen and the tone is consistently very dark throughout. And these dark tones serve to expose the young audience to a wider variety of content. Sometimes things aren't all happy-go-lucky in the world. Sometimes you'll find yourself scared shitless, and this is why I get annoyed at kid shows that are always just super one-note and happy all the time. That's not how the world is, and portraying it as such isn't preparing kids for anything. Even the Brenner era, which is widely considered to be some of the best Thomas content, didn't play with tone at all. The episodes always end with the characters laughing and living happily ever after. Duncan Gets Spooked ends with Duncan traumatized off his ass trying to make sense of what he saw. And it's just, again, brilliant. This episode is monumental in Thomas's history for being the darkest and scariest it ever got. Duncan Gets Spooked has stuck with countless people over the years, and to this day is still inspiring older fans to do their own take on it, because it is just that good. Hey, that one looks familiar. There were several key elements that made classic Thomas so great, and this episode perfectly encapsulates all of them. The writing is amazing, the cinematography, set and camera work is amazing, the music is amazing. The narration in both English dubs is, you guessed it, amazing.
It's the ghost! Take me back! Take me back, please!
The Spills and Chills DVD is still to this day my favorite Thomas DVD ever. Hell, over half the episodes on this list are from it, and Duncan Gets Spooked is a big part of that. This is a perfect episode of Thomas, and easily deserves its spot at number 1. This episode is pure king shit. So, my faithful audience of ladies and gentlefish, that was my ranking of the top 5 spooky Thomas and Friends episodes. Some of these episodes may have seemed a bit scary, but you know what's not scary? How much money you could save by using today's sponsor, Kaiki. Kaiki is the premier online retail store for Thomas and Friends merchandise. They offer, well, pretty much every range you could think of at prices you simply cannot beat. And if you thought these great deals were already affordable, well, by using my promo code, Rheneus10, you could save an additional 10% off your order and help out the channel while doing so. It saves you money and helps me out a ton, so if you're in the market for buying Thomas and Friends toys, Kaiki is the place for you. To save 10% off your order, again, use promo code Rheneus10 at checkout. That's RHENEAS10 at kaikistore.com, or you can use my affiliate link that's down in the description below. And once again, huge thanks to Kaiki for sponsoring today's video. I'm sure you're all going to disagree with me to some extent, and of course, you would all be wrong for doing so because my opinion is objectively the correct one. I'm joking, obviously. I'd be curious to see your thoughts down in the comments, but again, please keep it respectful. I've compiled my top 5 into a playlist, linked down below, so if you haven't seen these in a while, maybe give them a watch. This list was somewhat difficult to make, and some of the choices were pretty close. Don't think I don't love episodes like Ghost Train and Haunted Henry, because I do. They just didn't quite make the cut. Anyway, if you're still watching, thanks a ton for doing so, and let me know if you want me to do more discussion videos like this one in the future. I'd be more than happy to do so because, like I said earlier, I want to start doing a wider variety of content on my channel. With all this said, thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a fantastic day. Stay safe out there, gang. Peace.